The next thing I want to discuss is you had a former Obama speechwriter, Sarah Hurwitz. I think that's how you say her last name. Some of these Jewish last names are like ridiculous. You don't have any phlegm in your system, you're not going to be able to say them. Terrible. But she was like giving a speech, or she was at a conference, like a pro-Israel conference or a Jewish conference, and she basically said that it's okay for Israel to commit genocide, and that the point of Holocaust education was basically just to teach people that you can't be mean to Jews, but it's okay to be mean to anyone else. That's basically what she said. I'm going to play the clip now, and then we're going to discuss in detail.
I think that since October 7th, but really before then, there have been huge shifts in America on how people think about Jews and Israel. And I think that is especially true of young people. So we are now wrestling with a new, I think, generational divide here. And I think that's particularly true in that social media is now our source of media. And this, it used to be that the media you got in America was American media, and it was pretty mainstream. It generally didn't express extreme anti-Israel views. You had to go to a pretty weird bookstore to find global media and fringe media. But today, we have social media, which is a global medium, right? Its algorithms are shaped by billions of people worldwide who don't really love Jews. And so while in the 1990s, a young person probably wasn't going to find Al Jazeera or someone like Nick Fuentes, today, those media outlets find them. They find them on their phones. It's also this increasingly post-literate media, less and less text, more and more videos. So you have TikTok just smashing our young people's brains all day long with video of carnage in Gaza. And this is why so many of us can't have a sane conversation with younger Jews, because anything that we try to say to them, they are hearing it through this wall of carnage. So I want to give data and information and facts and arguments, and they are just seeing in their minds carnage, and I sound obscene. And, I think, unfortunately, the very smart, bet that we made on Holocaust education to serve as anti-Semitism education, in this new media environment, I think that is beginning to break down a little bit. Because, Holocaust education is absolutely essential. But I think it may be confusing some of our young people about anti-Semitism because they learn about big, strong Nazis hurting weak, emaciated Jews. And they think, anti-Semitism is like anti-black racism, right? Powerful white people against powerless black people. So when on TikTok all day long they see powerful Israelis hurting weak, skinny Palestinians, it's not surprising that they think, I know, the lesson of the Holocaust is you fight Israel. You fight the big, powerful people hurting the weak.
Okay, she literally says that Holocaust education may have been a mistake because it has taught people that you should defend the weak versus the powerful. And that's why young people are sympathetic to the Palestinians, because they are more or less powerless compared to the Israelis. That's sort of a stunning omission. And she implies that the only point of Holocaust education was to combat anti-Semitism. I mean, yes, that's part of it. Anti-Semitism is bad, of course. No one should be okay with anti-Semitism. No question about that. That's not the point, though. That was not the only thing that Holocaust education is supposed to teach us, that anti-Semitism is bad, obviously. But it's also supposed to teach us that any form of genocide, any form of ethnic cleansing is bad. Not just against Jews. I mean, she's not outright saying this, but there's an implication in the video I just played that genocide, Holocaust, is only not okay when it's against Jews. But when you're doing it for Jews, it's okay, basically. And that because the Holocaust happened to the Jews, anything Israel does now going forward is justified because they are forever victims. That's sort of the underlying message. That's the implication. That's what she's implying. I mean, her statement doesn't really make sense if that's not the implication of what she's trying to get at. She also calls Al Jazeera, Nick Fuentes, all anti-Semites, which Nick Fuentes may be. Al Jazeera, I don't think is an anti-Semitic organization. I think that's just a smear. She also acknowledges that young people are seeing all this carnage in Gaza. It's that's a problem. They should be seeing it. We should be aware of what's happening in Gaza. Israel has gone out of control in Gaza. Thank God Trump got a ceasefire in the region. That's great. But like, that's like, again, there's this implication that the Jews, or I should say Israel, I want to be clear about this. This was a Jewish conference. That's why I'm using the word, but this is really about Israel. There's an implication that Israel should be able to do whatever the hell it wants because of the Holocaust. It's like, the Holocaust happened a long time ago. Okay. We're getting close to 100 years from when the Holocaust happened. We're like 80 something here. I mean, we're getting close to 100. Just because the Holocaust happened to, and what, by the way, Jews weren't the only group that were impacted by the Holocaust, obviously. Gays were targeted, gypsies, certain Arabs. It was predominantly Jews, no question about that. I do not want to undermine that. But it wasn't just Jews. And just because the Holocaust happened doesn't mean Israel gets to do whatever they want. Again, you see this, and also, you see this with other groups too. There's this implication that if one group has been wronged, then anything they do in response is justified. And that's just not true. And by the way, I think it's funny that she talks about how, people think anti-Semitism is just like anti-black racism. It's like, yeah, God, it's like God forbid. She's scared of the fact that people are comparing blacks to Jews. She's offended by it. It's don't compare us to the blacks, anything but the blacks. It's calm down, lady. She's how dare you compare us to blacks? We are superior to blacks. It's okay. Actually, anti-Semitism and anti-black racism are actually pretty similar. Because they're both bigotry. It's both hatred based off, genetics, which is evil. No one should support that. I don't support that. No decent human being should support racism or bigotry, obviously. You can have bigotry toward an individual if they're a bad person, but against groups is irrational because groups are just individuals, ultimately. Just groups of individuals. So that's why bigotry is just irrational and evil. But she's you can't compare us to the blacks. It's not the same thing. It's okay, that's a little telling in of itself, but whatever. Let's not even get into that. But it does, and maybe I shouldn't say this, probably controversial. Maybe I'll get banned from YouTube from saying this. Maybe I'll get accused of anti-Semitism. I don't give a fuck. There does seem to be a problem, and you see this with other minority groups. I'm not just pointing out one. For all you crazy Zionists, I'm not just pointing out one group. But it does seem like there is sort of a victim complex Jews have that is just way out of whack. Jews are one of the most successful groups in America. It's a very small minority, yet it has a disproportionate amount of positions of power. And that's not bad. I'm fine. That's a good thing. I'm fine. I celebrate when groups are successful in America or elsewhere. I'm not against that at all. But not always. There is a big segment, particularly on the right, for whatever reason, that people like John Podhoretz, as I said, that just act like Jews are always victims. That people are always out to get them. Well, people are always scheming against the Jews. If you don't like Israel, it's because you don't like the Jews. You're trying to scheme against us. It's no. No one. You live in America, dude. No one's trying to stop Jews from being successful. No one's going to round you up again in America. That's not happening. The people in America who want us to be less supportive of Israel, they're not motivated by anti-Semitism. They're motivated by trying to help their own country, trying to focus on their own country. And if you're a Jew and you live in America, that should be how you think too. You can still support Israel and want Israel to do well, but you should always put America's interests first. And most Jews do. I want to be very clear. I think most Jews do care about America's interests first. Many Jews don't give a shit about Israel. I just want to be very clear about this so there's no misunderstanding. But it does appear to me that you do have some who seemingly care more about Israel. Maybe Ben Shapiro, maybe Mark Levin, I don't know. Randy Fine, he's a congressman. I mean, fucking Ted Cruz acts like he cares more about Israel than the United States to some degree. I mean, he basically said that the whole reason he became a senator was to defend Israel, which is just an insane statement, and it's why he'll never be president, because that statement's going to come back to haunt him, but I digress. But this is a former Obama speechwriter or official, and she's talking about how basically the only point of Holocaust education was to combat anti-Semitism. It's no, man. The big lesson of the Holocaust is why bigotry is evil and why genocide is evil. And again, she even acknowledges that there has been, chaos and carnage in Gaza, but there's like an implication that it should be okay because they're Jews. And that's basically her point, that the Holocaust education was supposed to teach us that Jews can do whatever they want, Israel can do whatever they want because they suffered a Holocaust. Again, just because a group has been victimized doesn't mean they have, carte blanche to whatever they want going forward. That's not the case. So, I don't know. I just thought this video was extremely telling. Again, this is at a Jewish conference, like an Israel conference. I think it says Jewish Federation in Israel something. It is true that Israel and Judaism is obviously highly related. It is sort of hard to talk about one without the other. I think you should distinguish between the two because there are many Jews who disagree with Israel. And if you don't distinguish between the two, it's much easier to be falsely accused of an anti-Semite, which I am not. I love Jews. I love their bread. That's great. But I love their hats. It's, frankly, I'd love to have a hat like that because, I'm getting to my late 20s now. My hair is not as thick as it used to be, so I may need something to cover parts of my hair. So maybe I need to get one of those frisbee things. Yarmulke. I like calling them little frisbees. I might need a big frisbee, though, at this point. We'll see. But anyway, so I just wanted to play that clip. It's just very telling that, again, the implication of her statement is that Israel should be able to commit genocide because the Holocaust happened. It's like, okay, man, you can say that, but that's just an absurd thing to say out loud. So anyway, that's enough about that. I don't even, here's the funny thing. I don't even like talking about Israel. I'm so sick of it. But the pro-Israel people have gone so fucking insane, as I've just played here, that it's kind of hard not to talk about it as it continues to impact our domestic policy. Anyway, let's get to the next topic.